So I read a lot of books in 2022, and I saw a few people doing this trend, and it just seemed like kind of a fun thing to do to kind of remember the year and all the things I've read, because quite frankly, some of the books at the start seem kind of hazy in my memory. But yeah, I want to do a tier list where I rank all, I think, 77 books. Maybe it was less than that. I think it was like 70 something because I counted short stories. Anyways, I read a lot of books in 2022, and I want to rate them all, put them all on a tier list. For my rankings, I have Love and Think About Often. That's going to be the top of the top, the creme de la creme. The books that I read and I still actively think about, and I'm just like, whoa, that was a good book. I have Very Good But Don't Remember. So this will be books that I enjoyed reading, but I don't actively think about anymore. Books that I enjoyed in the moment, but they haven't stuck. And then I have Enjoyed, so just middle of the road average. I have Needs Some Work, so books that I didn't think were good, but I think could be improved if the author improved a bit. And then I have Phil, You Make Me Angry, Phil, for books I absolutely despise. To start off, we have Prayer for the Crown Shy. So this is the... I suppose I'll do Psalm for the Wild Built first. Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers was one of the novellas that I read, I think about August. And it was a part of a series of novellas that were nominated for Best Novella for the Hugo Awards. So I read all of those because I thought it'd be a fun little experiment just to see what's out. And this one blew me away. It ended up winning Best Novella, and rightly so. It is a fantastic story. I love it. It's simple, it has a small scope, it's super interpersonal. I love it. It made me feel good. Right along with it, Prayer for the Crown Shy, which is the sequel, they both get to stay up there. That's just top of the list right away. Spindle Splinter. This is another one of those novellas for the Hugo Award nominees. It's a portal fantasy, kind of fairy tale-esque retelling. It was alright. I don't really go for urban portal fantasies, like that kind of stuff. Just doesn't vibe with me. It's not my preference, but it was alright. Also on this list, Across the Greengrass Fields. This goes here. This pissed me off so much because it started out, the first half is a average story. It's not fantastical in the slightest, about this little girl, and it's fantastic. It's really well written. It's lovely. And then it jukes you, and it sends you to a magical world, and it takes away all of the impact that the first half of the story got me tied to it. Like, I was actively engaged with the story and really curious to see where it goes, and then it just took all that away from me and was like, oh, now there's quite literally centaurs and all this, and it's just, oh, it frustrated me so badly. All Systems Red. This was another Murderbot, or another novella. The first in the Murderbot series. I love this series, but where do I want to put this? I don't think I think about it very often. Fantastic series. I enjoy it to death, but I think it'll be very good, but don't remember. Animal Farm was good. I liked it. I had a good time reading it. I think very good, but don't remember. Artificial Condition, I'm going to lump in with All Systems Red. I think all of these, there are two series in here that I think they all kind of blend together in my head because I read them all in such fast succession. So Murderbot and the Dresden Files. I read all of them and they all just kind of blended together. So All Systems Red, Artificial Condition, Fugitive Telemetry, they all just kind of are one. So maybe I'll leave all of these down here and just use that to represent the entire series. So Murderbot as a series, very good, but don't remember. As I Delay Dying by William Faulkner. I really enjoyed this book. It's nearly incomprehensible. It's wonderful. I loved reading it and trying to understand what the hell was going on. It was just a joy. I think about it often. Battlegrounds. I suppose this will be my representative for the Dresden Files. So, all of these, Blood Rights, Cold Days, Changes, Dead, I'm going to put all these back here, and I'm just going to use Battlegrounds to represent the Dresden Files as a whole. Now, the Dresden Files, I read all of the books this year, all 14, and they were fantastic. They were wonderful. I loved reading through them. It came to the point where if I wanted, I was reading something heavier or something different, I would just slot in a Dresden Files book and then read something else, and I just trade back and forth that way. But Dresden Files is written so well, and it's written in such a way that if I pick up that book and start reading it, I guarantee it is done within 3 days. Like, it is just done. They're so fast-paced and fun that I just burn through all of them. And yeah, fantastic world, fantastic characters. I love Dresden as a character. I want more of this. I'm waiting for Butcher to give us more. Burning Chrome is a collection of short stories by William Gibson. It's mainly, it's just an anthology of different tiny little short stories revolving around technology and kind of cyberpunk-ish aesthetics, depending on which stories you're talking about. There's one story in particular here that sticks in my head and stays rent-free. If you ever pick up Burning Chrome or reading through this, the story Dogfight just sticks in my head because of how absolutely screwed up and malicious and evil the main character in that story is. Dogfight in Burning Chrome. If you can't read anything from that series, read Dogfight, and that is just, it's stuck in my brain. It's so screwed up. Count Zero, also by William Gibson. This is the second book in the, I think it's the Sprawl trilogy is the technical name of it. So Neuromancer, Count Zero, and Mona Lisa Overdrive. All three of these were absolutely crazy. They blew me out of the water with how immersive and how just wonderful they were. I love the world. I love the characters. It was lovely. Dawn Sharp by Brandon Sanderson. I enjoyed it. It was good. Like most Sanderson, it's written really easily to read through. Like, it's the prose is very simple, but it's really well plotted. So I read through it really quickly, and it was good. It's a fun supplementary material for one of the characters that shows up briefly in Stormlight. I liked it. Defect. This was a novella that I think I saw on Twitter. I saw on Twitter that it had won an award for like British science fiction or something like that. Some award off in England. And I don't know. The cover looks cool. I like the name. I bought it. Defect. So it's a sci-fi satirization on like an IKEA big box store kind of thing. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Not too good, not too bad. It was fun. Elder Race. This was also one of the novellas for the Hugo nominations. It was very good. Very good. Exit Strategy is one of the Murderbot books. Fireheart Tiger. This was also one of the novellas. I'm debating whether it's enjoyed or needs some work because I felt like it needed more time to try and do what it was trying to do. It felt very rushed. I think I'll leave it at enjoyed for now, but right at the bottom. I'm going to swap out Battlegrounds for Full Moon. Actually, wait, no. I'm going to swap it out for Stormfront. Where's Stormfront? There you are. I think that'll be at the front of Very Good, but don't remember, because it deserves to be there. You know what? No. It gets to the love. It gets there. Fugitive Telemetry is the most recent Murderbot novel. Ghost Stories is another Dresden book. Artificial Condition, another Murderbot. Golden Sun. Okay, so while we're talking about Golden Sun, let's start with Red Rising. Red Rising was very good. It was lovely. I got recommended the series by a friend. I saw a lot of people on YouTube talking about it. I thought, gotta check it out. I read Red Rising. Fantastic book. It felt very much like the whole like YA young adult, Hunger Games diversion, all that kind of trend. It felt like that, where it's just like a group of kids in this big massive game that they have to win. And I loved it. It was great. It was wonderful. And then after that, I went and I got the next book and I read Golden Sun. And Golden Sun was still pretty good. And it was alright. And then I read Morning Star. And it frustrated me to no belief. Because it starts out in Red Rising. You have your main character, Darrow. And Darrow is the smartest person ever. He's the best person in the world. He's super strong and great and he's best. And then Golden Sun comes around, and you're like, oh, he's smart and genius and all that. And then they have this thing where it's not revealed to the reader what's going on, and then right at the end, it's a big twist, and it's suddenly Darrow is super smart, and this was all his plan all along, and he did everything perfectly. And then you get to Morning Star, and they just do that again, where it's like, oh no, our hero lost, and there's only 50 pages left in the book. Oh no, everything's over. But actually, Darrow's the smartest person all along, and this was all a part of the plan, and you wasted your time worrying for the last 100 pages because it's all solved. It made me angry. I know a lot of people love this series, but like the ending just frustrated me to no end. Well, we're on frustrating. Hitchhiker's Guide. I did not like Hitchhiker's Guide at all. I think part of that is the fact that hitchhikers influenced internet culture in such a way that for a long time they were kind of synonymous. Like, it influenced the whole, lol, so random, potato, banana, all that kind of suddenly non sequitur. I think was influenced a lot by hitchhikers when it was big. And so going back and reading Hitchhiker's Guide just harkens back to that portion of the internet that I don't really enjoy and frustrates me. Like, I had such high hopes because in this list is a lot of Terry Pratchett, and I love Pratchett. Pratchett is clever and funny, and he finds ways to just make tiny little details of the human experience and just like human living, and making it hilarious by nestling into this obscure and absurdist like fantasy setting. I love it. So I thought, okay, British writer, absurdist humor, beloved. Surely Douglas Adams is going to be the same thing with Hitchhikers, because they feel very much like the same kind of, the same vein of things. But I read Hitchhikers, and it didn't do it. It didn't do it. It was frustrating, to say the least. It was less clever humor and more, here's a bunch of made-up words. And here's a random thing. And it just... I didn't like it. Hogfather. I accidentally read this during Christmas, which was the perfect time to read it because it's a story based around Christmas and saving Christmas and all that. It was very themed, very very well themed to what I was to the season I was in. Hyperion. Hyperion, I think, in hindsight, I think Hyperion is the best book I read this year. I think. It was stunning. This is nothing new. A lot of people love Hyperion. I think it won a Hugo from when it was released back in the... whenever it was released. I'm not even going to try and guess because that'll be embarrassing. But, yeah, fantastic book. Everybody knows it's a fantastic book. It is wonderful. I still cannot stop thinking about The Priest's Tale, and it's just great. I think the author had a lot of fun because he got to write all these different stories. I think it's 7, not 7, because they didn't all tell their story. But he wrote all these different stories and was able to play around with theme in a bunch of different ways. So you have, The Priest's Tale, which is very much this kind of, late 1800s kind of exploratory journal entry kind of thing. Kind of like, what else did I read here? Treasure Island, kind of like that, where it was very much kind of taking that style from Treasure Island or Dracula, or like the style of that era, where it was this personal account of my journey down there. And it's just this almost horror, not psychological horror, but like it's very much this creepy horror story. And then the next one is this war story about this general, which I didn't like because it was mainly them having sex in the bush with this weird AI. Anyways, didn't like that one. And then you get Weinstraub's story, which is just this absolute tragedy that made me sad to read and breaks my heart still thinking about it. And it was so well written. And then at the very end, there are a few more in there, but these three are the main. The priest story which is horror, and I think about and screws me up constantly. You have Weinstraub, which is tragedy, and I think about constantly. And at the end, you have this really fun cyberpunk story that they just threw in there because the author could have fun with it. And that combined with the ending that is super ambiguous and you don't really care what's happening and anything could happen. I just love this book. Hyperion is fantastic. I believe this is Interesting Times. This was good. I don't remember key specifics of it, but it was good. I liked Interesting Times. King's Wild also, it was good. It was alright. Kyber Path. A coworker at work self-published a book, and I read it, and I think, in the kindest way possible, the most, like, I don't want to tear him down, but he very much, he needs to hone his craft a bit more, is all I can say about that. He needs to do a bit more writing before he tries to publish anything, I think. Mogworld. This is a fantasy comedy written by Yahtzee Croshaw, the guy that does Zero Punctuation on The Escapist. It's a video game review series, kind of comedy review. It was very good. I quite liked it. I do feel like it dragged on a bit too long. Like, it was a very long book, and there were times where I was just dragging my feet trying to read through it. MLO, Mona Lisa Overdrive. This can go up with Count Zero in the Sprawl trilogy. Again, wonderful book. Mort. I liked Mort, not as much as Hogfather. I think I like Hogfather more than Mort. Network Effect is another of the Murderbot series. Neuromancer. I'll put back up here. So the entire Sprawl trilogy can be here. I think it ranks higher than As I Lie Dying. But do I rank it higher than Psalm for the Wild, Bill? No. I think I leave that there for now. Of Mycelium and Men, this is another one where I saw on Twitter a post about it, and it was a self-published book, and it seemed really interesting, and I read it, and much like Kyber Path, I think the person needs to hone their craft a bit more. It was a very rough book to get through. Very tough. Old Man's War. I enjoyed it. I don't think about it at all. It's there. Our Friend from Frolic 8 by Philip K. Dick. This I saw in a thrift shop, and it said Philip K. Dick, and I was like, oh, he's a prominent sci-fi author. Might as well give him a try. And it was an alright book. I didn't mind it. It was a fun concept. Very much felt like classic sci-fi. It was alright. Nothing groundbreaking, but it was there. Peace Talks is another Dresden Files book. Phantom of the Opera, I think goes at the front of very good, but don't remember. I think about it quite a bit, but not in the way that I think warrants being at the top of the top. I don't think it deserves to be up there quite yet. Pride Spell. Oh dear. So this is the last of the 3 Sin du Jour books I read. I read the first 2 the year before. And I got to Pride Spell, and this is the one that made me just give up on the series. So, these are a series of novellas that I read before Dresden, and they're urban fantasy, much in the same vein of Dresden, but this is, again, before I read Dresden. But it's about a group of caterer chefs that cater to supernatural events, which on the surface seems like a good time. The first one even, which I think is, what's the name of the first one? Envy of Angels. Envy of Angels, the first of the Sin du Jour books, is wonderful. It's hilarious. It's great. There are a few things that get me annoyed about it, but it's alright. But the deeper and deeper we go, the worse and worse it gets, to the point that it just frustrated me beyond belief, and I had to drop the series. And now that I've read that and read Dresden, this series wants to be Dresden so bad. It's trying to ape Dresden's style so bad. and it frustrated me. So it goes to Phil, You Make Me Angry, Phil. It can sit down there. Proven Guilty, another Dresden Files book. Reaper Man. I really liked Reaper Man. We're going to rank that above that. I think Red Rising and Golden Sun can stay back there. I think Golden Sun can even go to... Oops, how'd I flip these around? There we go. I think Golden Sun can go to Enjoyed. I don't think Golden Sun is very good. No. Roadside Picnic is a novella, and it is wonderful. I am constantly thinking about how I can do some sort of content with Roadside Picnic, but all of that involves me being better at art, and I'm not there yet. So, eventually. Rogue Protocol, another of the Murderbot series. Sins of Empire. Ooh, ooh. Before we talk about this, let's talk about the Autumn Republic and the Crimson Campaign, because these are the second two of the Powder Mage trilogy. I read the first one the year before, so it's not in this list, but I read the second two, finished off the trilogy this year, well, 2022, so last year, and they were great. Powder Mage is wonderful. It very much reads kind of like a Sanderson book, only the endings are a bit choked, but that doesn't matter. The world is wonderful, the characters are wonderful, the magic system is fun and engaging, and pretty hard, like a Sanderson system. Wonderful series. I loved it. I especially like the Napoleonic era, the fact that it's set in what's essentially an equivalent in the Napoleonic era, where you have, you know, armies of bayonets and cavaliers and cavalry and all this, and it was just wonderful to see those battles play out. I love this. But then, eventually, I went on to the sequel trilogy that's set in the same world, another trilogy, and it was awful. It was so frustrating because I loved the original so much, and then this one just felt like such a step down in quality, and it hurt to read. It felt very much like it had the same problems as these other two, in that they felt like somebody who hadn't written much, and yeah, it was rough. Skin Game, another Dresden Files book. I actually quite like Skin Game. It was a fun plot. It was a heist plot, and Dresden was kind of forced into helping on this crew. I like Skin Game. Slaughterhouse 5. I enjoyed it. It was good. I will put it actually at the front of this. It was a fun book. Another one of those where it's like, I recognize that title, and it's kind of a classic. I'll pick it up from the thrift shop and read it. And it was alright. I liked it. Small Favor, another Dresden Files book. Something Wicked, I think, goes right about here. Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury is a wonderful, almost poetic story about two kids and a evil carnival. And it's just this perfect spooky read. It's not really like horror-ish. It's fun. It's really fun, and it reads so well, and it's beautiful, and I love it. It can stay up there. I think about it often. Summer Night, also Dresden. Super Mega Saves the Troops. This is a joke book by Super Mega that's just stupid and fun, and I bought it to support them. I liked it. It seemed like a goofy book. It very much is a goofy book. It can stay there. Yeah, which one's this? Tales from the Loop, I think, by Simon Stollenhag. This is a art book with a plot in it. I think I'll put Stollenhag in love and think about often, because they are beautiful. So all of these, the Tales from the Loop, the Electric State, and the Labyrinth, where are you, are all these beautiful art books with paintings by Stollenhag that all are a part of an ongoing story throughout the book. So the books themselves are, if they were just the text, it would probably be like a short story to novella length, but they are added on to and made so much more impactful by these absolutely beautiful sci-fi paintings that go along with these books. They are stunning. I love them. I have one more book, I think, and then I'll have completed all of his books that he's released. But they are fantastic. Great Gatsby. This was good. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I hadn't read The Gatsby. I didn't read in high school, so I wanted to read it just so I had that cultural knowledge of what The Great Gatsby was. And it was a fun read. It was good. Michael Crichton's The Great Train Robbery. This was fun, but I don't remember it. Yeah, I can sit down here. The Last Continent. It makes me angry. It's a Pratchett book, so there are bits and pieces that are very Pratchett-esque, where it's, fun and goofy, but it drags on for far too long, I thought. It kept on going and going and going. I might have been in the wrong headspace while reading it, but it was such a drag. The Last Hero, unlike The Last Continent, is really fun. It's part novella, part art by, I think, Paul Kidby, and it was just a pleasure. It was great. The Lost Metal, very good. Very good. Actually, I don't think I'd love it. I don't think it sits up here. I think it's down here. It was a wonderful Sanderson book. This was the finale of the Wax and Wayne trilogy, and it wrapped it up wonderfully and makes me very sad, but it did a perfect job at wrapping up the series, and I'm excited to see what's next. The Past is Red. This is another one of those novellas. I think it actually deserves to be up here. It was another one of the Hugo novellas, and it was very charming in an odd kind of way. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, we'll stick with that. Charming. That's not going to stick, though. Three Body Problem. I listened to this while I was on a road trip. I enjoyed it. I don't remember it very much. To Be Taught and Fortunate can sit up here with Love. I think To Be Taught can sit with... No. I think Above the Past is Red. Yeah, we'll sit you here. Love and Think About Often. And then finally, Treasure Island. Another one of those where this is a classic, and I want to know what it's about, just so that I'm, more understanding of when it's referenced in culture and all that. It was all right. Very much just a simple adventure book. And that's it. That's everything I read. I did it. Yay. So that is everything I read in the year of 2022. I don't know if I'll read nearly this much this year. I definitely had a lot of times where I could just sit down and burn through a book in a day or two. I don't know if I'll get that opportunity or have that motivation in 2023, but we will see. I still very much enjoy reading. I haven't burnt myself out of it, which is great. But I'm not sure if I'll get to like 70 plus books this year. We'll see. We'll see. Anyways, from now, I don't know if I'll do anything else at all, but I want to do this just to kind of lock this in place and help me remember what I read this year. And remember these books and think about them more.